It is 2 o'clock, so we will call this meeting to order. And Sylvia, can we start with roll call, please?
Yes, Sheriff Darren Balaam will be absent today. Zara Darby, Scott Benton, Lorraine Benuto, Charlene Bybee,
Here.
Elizabeth Flores,
Here.
Jessica Goicoechea,
Here.
Sarah Porter,
Here.
Rhonda Lawrence,
Here.
Leanne McCauley Larson, Paige Samples,
Here.
Natalie Sanchez,
Here.
Misty Vaughn Allen,
Present.
Lieutenant Colonel Scott Codwell,
I am here.
and Shelley Buchanan.
Present.
Roll call has been done.
Oh, and Sylvia, it looks like we had somebody else just join too.
Hi, everyone. It's Lorraine Januto.
Great. Charlene, would you mind leading us in the pledge? Thank you. And with that, I open up item 2.01, which is the approval of the minutes from the February 6, 2023 meeting of the Safe and Healthy Schools Commission. I'm looking for an approval of those minutes.
Shelley Buchanan, I call to approve the minutes as written.
Thanks, Shelley. Do we have a second?
Liz Flores, I'll second the motion.
Thanks, Liz. Okay, motion passes. All right, Sylvia, is there any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay. And then we've got a vote. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No? Okay, motion carries. All right, so moving on to item 2.02. This is for presentation and discussion only to the Safe and Healthy Schools Commission, the goals for the 2022 to 2023 school year that were revised by the Washoe County School Board of Trustees for information only. So this is information update from the last school board meeting that Chair Benton and I were able to attend. And the Board of Trustees had some recommendations for us. So I'm just going to go over those. The first of which is that the Board of Trustees, and this was from March 14th, the Board of Trustees approved the goals of the Safe and Healthy Schools Commission to include recommendations as discussed and approved. And we heard from 9 members of the community related to this item. The first motion was the Board of Trustees adds to our second goal, research and recommendations on secondary school bathroom safety, including to vaping detection. So the school board, the Board of Trustees was curious about adding this goal to, for the safety of students to look at if folks are in the bathroom, if kids are being safe, and can we do something about some more, I think, information and shed more light on vaping that's happening in the bathrooms across the schools. And that motion was by Colleen Westlake. Then we also had a motion that we recommend that we continue to work with family school partnerships to embed information on keeping schools safe online in the parent university programs. And the recommendation with that was also if we could add a portion of that to the, the safety forum coming up here in May. And then another goal that was approved was to include, oh, nope, that was all, that's basically all of it. So I think that's it, just to go over that and let you guys know we had a nice meeting with them. Okay. It feels like we're going so fast. And now to move on to item 2.03.
Chair, or Vice Chair, can I ask a question?
Yeah,
My
oh,
question
please.
on that?
Yeah.
Is that okay, Sarah? Okay. When they said for the safety forum, since I know that's a part of our agenda this meeting, were they asking as part of that we give like instruction or how to, or take this information, like how do they want that incorporated? Did they clarify that?
No, I think they
Okay.
they were leaving it open to us to determine how it fits in within our forum, but they
Okay.
did want it included.
And then if we don't have it readily available, but do we have the list of goals that you presented it to them just as a refresher for everyone?
I think so. I don't know if we can pull that up, Sylvia, as that was a presentation that we did at the Board of Trustees. So
If not, I can go back.
Yeah, I can go ahead and look it up for you
Okay.
and provide it.
Okay.
It looks like also we're going to move on to 2.03, which goes into doing that specific topic. So I think we're good.
thank you. Any other questions or comments on that item?
This is Shelley Buchanan. I don't know if this is appropriate or not. I'd like to go back to 202 for a second.
Oh, yeah, we're
Can I-
still on.
can
Yeah.
we okay, I thought we were on 203 already. Before we move on, can you go through and just then read all of our goals then, including these?
Yeah, I'll have to,
altogether?
yeah, I'll have to
Okay.
look that up then. So
Thank
just
you.
give me 1 second. Okay, so here's what we presented to the Board of Trustees. The Safe and Healthy Schools Commission will build the capacity of schools and educators to partner with and engage families on the emotional safety and physical safety of students. One of those goals includes partnering with Parent University to look at the current catalog and offerings for which classes tie to this objective. Annually review data on how many families participated, were satisfied with the services, and the demos of the families and the students that were reached. Additionally, we will partner with School Family Partnership Department to create a toolkit for schools to use with families to better understand safety procedures. So that was the first goal. The second goal that we'd agreed upon was build an understanding of the relationship between factors, including student connectedness and school safety. Articulate the balance between physical safety measures and social emotional safety measures to ensure a safe learning environment. It's that goal that the Board of Trustees wanted us to add the vaping detection within the bathroom. Review annually and biannually training for crisis and emergency management, including parent and family reunification, threat assessment, prevention, and recovery. Conduct an annual safety forum, and then another one of our functions is review district policy and programming. Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right. With that, we will move on to item 2.03. And this is for presentation and discussion only. And this is to determine the content, the logistics, and the marketing for the annual Washoe County School District 2023. It should read Safety Forum, including revising topics based on previous action by the Washoe County School District Board of Trustees. And this is for possible action. So it might be helpful. I'm just going to review the ones that we had all kind of decided upon on the other meetings, and then we can talk about the addition.
Vice Chair, sorry to interrupt you. We do have Commissioner Leanne McCauley-Larson join.
Oh, great, thank you. And those prior goals are so for the topics, sorry, not the goals, the topics for our upcoming safety meeting: be smart, gun safety, that's one. Second one is physical safety at schools, including safe routes, traffic, school police, emergency management, and capital improvements. The third, suicide prevention and awareness. And the fourth, trends in the juvenile justice system, including drugs, battery, etc. So those are the four that we had agreed upon prior. And then additionally, we're being asked to add into our safety forum how to keep kids safe online. And so I open it up to the commission as to where that might be a good addition and what topic.
Jessica Gogachia, for the record. I think that if we're going to be trying to identify a place for this, it might be best suited under trends. However, I'm interested in the feedback of the commission on, I know that there were a lot of trends that we were talking about and not a lot of time, but I really don't know in regard to our other three topics where that would fit in. And so I guess I would just be open to the communication around if we could fit this into trends.
This is Liz Flores for the record. At the last meeting, I had agreed to be the lead on this particular one. Regarding children's safety online, that's not necessarily expertise we have. However, and can someone remind me how much time we have for each presentation? Was it 30?
It's very
Yeah.
short. I believe it was about 30 minutes.
And so, I mean, potentially somebody could collaborate on that piece of it. It would shorten the amount of time we have for the other trends, but I'm certainly willing to work with whomever the subject matter expert is to co-present.
Dr. Lamarca, is there somebody in the district who would be willing to or able to help us with that portion of it?
Hi, Paul Lamarca for the record. Sorry I couldn't be there. I'm fighting a little bit of a bug. Yeah, we would definitely support likely through family school partnerships as the goal reads. I do wonder, and I just sent you a text message, Ms. Sanchez. I wonder if there's a nexus with suicide prevention. It might be interesting for Misty to comment on that. And I do know that goal 2 or topic 2 is around physical safety, but this possibly could fit within a safety measure. I don't know. So those are a couple options, but we will support you through family school partnerships, regardless of where you decide to put it.
This is Sarah Porter for the record. I think that there's opportunity for how to keep kids safe online to be a part of just about any one of these topics. I don't think it needs to slate under just one. If we're talking about gun safety, we could talk about, extremist forums or things like that we're seeing pop up, or safe routes to school, like Dr. Lamarca said, around actual physical safety. Suicide prevention, huge with online bullying and keeping kids safe. And then if we have someone who can partner with Commissioner Flores on that particular presentation, I don't see why it has to land under one. I think we could pepper it in on each one of these topics.
We could.
Lorraine Benuto for the record. I was thinking along the same lines that depending on the component of internet safety that one is thinking about, it could fit under lots of different categories.
Oh, Misty, did you have your hand up?
I did. Good morning, everyone. Misty Allen, Suicide Prevention Coordinator for the record. And we were planning to do the suicide prevention piece as safe messaging, which includes digital wellness. It will be tight, but it's some good information, so that can absolutely work under ours as well.
Dr. Lamarca, I want to be mindful of folks from the county and from the school district rather, and what they're able to provide. Would someone be able to pop into various topics during those presentations for the safety forum?
Yes, I think we could do that, but I would ask that we try to limit it to 2 and no more than 3. Because it likely would be Delisa Crane and Maria Fernandez, both of whom you've met before. So we could probably pull off 3. We would be stretched very thin to pop into all 4.
This is Sarah Porter for the record. I think if one of them we drop, the safe routes to school makes the least sense in this particular topic, if we need to limit it to 2 or 3.
Jessica Gogachia, and I think that if Misty Van Allen is already planning to do a component of it already as part of hers, we probably don't need the district to help in that one either. So maybe we do the gun safety, the be safe, and then in trends. That we would be adding that.
Commissioner Bybee?
Charlene Bybee for the record. I love that Misty's going to include it in the suicide prevention, digital wellness, makes sense there. And I think it falls under physical safety. I don't think we need to put it under every single topic because we've got such a limited amount of time that we've got a lot to cover in the gun safety and in the trends. I don't want to detract from some of the other, the really important things and messaging and information that we need to get across. So I think if it was, physical safety, that kind of, for me, the online, it's another safety, and it is physical safety with being online and the threats that can happen from that. I mean, it's not in person, but it is as damaging, and obviously the suicide makes sense, but I think we wanted to incorporate it somehow into physical safety as well. But I think, obviously the Board of Trustees has asked us to incorporate it, which is important, but I think we've got so much to cover. And having done how many of these I've done already, you just run out of time so quickly. And there's so many important information we want to share that we want to be able to cover, the key points on every one of these because it's quick.
Dr. Lamarca?
I thank you. I just want to say I agree with Ms. Bybee. I think those are the two places where the material that's ready would fit best, is in physical safety and in suicide prevention. And it may be that Misty doesn't need our support, but we always like supporting Misty.
So it sounds like to really highlight the importance of online safety, maybe the spirit of what the Board of Trustees is asking us, then to put it under physical safety is, okay, all right. All right, so I imagine that we need, Sarah, probably a motion.
Natalie.
Oh, yeah.
Sarah Darby for the record.
Yeah.
I also think, we do have to get through our topics fast, and I understand that, but I also think if we're putting it in the suicide prevention, we could also bring up mental health within that same category, if that makes sense. If we're just categorizing it within that as well, I think we could also put that together.
No, that's a great suggestion, and I think Misty, correct me if I'm wrong, that's something you guys it sounds like are going to have as part of your presentation.
I think we can pull that off. I welcome any ideas on information you have seen out there that could help with that.
Great.
Do we actually need a motion if we're just incorporating into the categories that we've already agreed to?
Sarah?
So the motion would be, yes, it would be to incorporate it in, and I would identify the specific topics that you're looking to incorporate it to. So if it's 2 or 3, specify which topics that you're looking to incorporate it into.
Thank you.
I have a comment before we move on. This is Shelley Buchanan. This is just a general comment. I've been watching the state legislature because we've been meeting about these current laws and bills that have to do with school safety and restorative justice, and what's going on in the school board meetings. And there's a lot of talk about safety in schools. And from what I can tell, there's not a lot of clarity on the part of parents on what's going on. They're getting mixed messages. And I really would hope, and I don't know if it fits in the safety forum because I understand that we have a limited amount of time within that framework, but at some point, we can be a liaison between the district and our community in really clarifying the safety measures on how safe children are in schools and exactly what is happening and what they can do to support schools. Because I really do think that there's a lack of clarity that's going on. And in the news, you read all sorts of stuff. And so I just want to put that out there. There's a lot of nuance, that's not even covered in the school board meetings. I don't know how we can address that, but I would hope that we could be part of that solution.
Thank you, Commissioner Buchanan. And my hope is that that's what some of this invitation is to our safety forum, that it's an opportunity for parents to let us know what we're doing well, what they're lacking, maybe what they're dissatisfied with, but also get some helpful information out of that time. And I think to your specific point, particularly the physical safety piece and the online safety, I think kind of speak to what can a parent do and what do those processes and procedures look like. Yeah.
Just to be clear, so this agenda item, we're just touching, this is one piece of it. And we have logistics and marketing. Are we going to have a report on that so that I don't want to make a motion on just this one piece of it because it looks like the agenda item is covering all of that, the content, revised topics, logistics and marketing for the safety forum that we need to look at and finalize so that we can approve.
Do we need a big one or can we do an individual one just on the?
You can do individual ones. It might be easier to
Do the big dog, to do the individual?
do individual rather than trying to fit it all in one.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. Okay. And it looks like we have another comment online too. Is it Dr. Venuto? Oh, it's Dr. Lamarco's hands up.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize my hand was up.
Oh, it's Scott. Lieutenant Caldwell?
Yeah, just Scotch, just fine. Thank you. For the record, yeah, I guess I wasn't tracking some of the things that we mentioned that the school board was discussing, or what is there any examples of the nuances that you mentioned that are out there, or maybe some misconceptions that parents have about school security, just so I can kind of track that?
I think that's to you, Commissioner.
Well, from what happened basically is there's a lot of coverage about violence that's happening in schools. And there, to make a long story short, there's some legislation in the state legislature right now to change how we suspend and expel students for violence. And there's been some educators in those hearings that were talking about how there's an increase in battery against teachers and et cetera. And then the school board meeting, the last school board meeting, they touched on these issues. And Dr. Lamarca went over the specific statistics on violence in our schools and suspensions and what the suspensions are for. And actually incidents have gone way down, although incidents and violence have gone up. And Dr. Lamarca, I'm sure, can share that information with you, but our overall suspensions have gone down. And there's a lot of variation between schools, and especially between elementary and high school, and between different schools at the same level themselves. Being a former teacher, and I don't want to go on too long because it can be a very complex topic, but there are a lot of issues as to why disruptive events may be increasing in a school. Not having enough para supporters for special education students is one big factor. Having a lot of long-term subs or teachers early on in their career who may not be familiar with how to manage a classroom is another really important factor. Teacher turnover, student turnover, there's lots of different things. And so I think that there's a lot of people are scared, I think, in the public. And I think that we need to give them all of this information, not only to alleviate some fears, but also as a way of going forward and saying, this is why it's happening and this is how we can fix it. And that's how you make people feel secure and trusting in their school district and feel safe. And I'm sorry I went on too long, but that's basically, from my perspective, what's going on.
And then, Paul, sorry, before you go, I just want to remind us we need to stay on the agenda topic of the safety forum. So while this might be related to potentially an agenda, the safety school safety discussion for the topic, we don't want to go into too many details because it's not on the agenda.
let me just say that I think Member Buchanan's comments are right on, and I hear Sarah as well. I don't know exactly what Ms. Flores intends to present on trends in juvenile services. Maybe some of this could be addressed within that context. And I know we're not supposed to talk about a different agenda item, but I will suggest that in the parent toolkit, that's part of another one of your goals, I think goal 1. I think some of what Shelley is talking about would be perfect within that context.
And I just want to make sure that Zara gets a chance to talk to you.
Oh, Zara Darby for the record. I definitely agree with Shelley within that there is just different variations in different schools, and we need to figure out like a exact like motion of like action within every school, like within every school that could also cater to everybody. Does that make sense? So I agree with the that's like definitely variations on different schools. Now we have different circumstances, but like, and then we need like one like motion or like more than one to accommodate. Does that make sense?
So it sounds like you're talking a little bit about what Dr. Lamarca was saying about Parent University and being able to be very direct in some of that communication, and Parent University but is able to address different school populations and different needs, and so kind of looking at supporting that goal. Okay. Commissioner Gocochea?
I'd like to move that we add online safety to the specific safe routes topic for our safety forum, and that we acknowledge that the suicide prevention will also be including that through Ms. Von Allen's presentation.
This is Misty Allen. I'll second that motion.
All right.
I
Is there
do
any public comment on this item?
No public comment.
Okay, and Commissioner
I'm just
Biley?
going to ask for clarification on when you say safe routes to school, is that our physical safety? Are we're calling it safe routes to school or just physical safety? As a category, as a topic?
Physical safety.
It incorporates safe routes to school.
Okay, I thought it was introduced as safe routes, so physical safety, under the physical safety and safe routes to school topic, for
Okay,
clarification.
physical safety and safe routes. Okay. Thanks. I only had half of it. Thank you.
All right. Can we have a vote on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstain? No? Okay, the motion carries. And we've got Megan here to maybe update us on some of the logistics and dates, times, what we're looking at, and maybe some opportunities for commissioners to maybe be helpful during those different sessions.
Great. Thank you, Vice Chair Sanchez and the commission. I appreciate it. For the record, I'm Megan Downs. I'm the communications manager for the school district. This will be maybe my 7th forum, so let's see. So we're thankful for the vote today, as now we can sort of move forward incorporating all the topics into our marketing materials. So we'll be designing that and getting it out to the public shortly. We obviously have our various avenues here within the school district that we do that, including our Connect Ed messages to families, our website, all of our social media channels. We'll be sharing it with local media, and looking for other creative ways to share it. One piece that's also been successful in the past is I can draft an email for the commission, and you can sort of tweak that as you will for your own audiences. If you have particular networks or parents that you're working with that would like a personal invite from the commissioners, we can include basically the graphic invite so that you have that and can just forward it onto your networks as you see fit. You can also share the social media posts with your networks once those are up as well. Today's been a busy day in terms of safety, so I've been dealing with all that this morning. But so, okay, with the as a reminder, and you probably already discussed this, so everybody's on the same page. So we're doing the 3 forums the morning, beginning at 7 a.m. That will go till 8:15. And that is virtual. And then the noon to 1:15, also virtual. And then the evening one, 5:30 to 6:45, that is in person at Trainer Middle School. We've already done a walkthrough at the school and had a chat with the principal, and I think it's going to work out beautifully. We had the discussion, and I've been talking with Scott about this as well, whether we do the breakouts and mirror what we do in the virtual. We also have a lot of room, so we can offer the same topic in 4 different, topic in each room, and then they can repeat that twice, so maybe more people can be involved and just be involved in more intimate conversation about that particular topic. So that's available at the physical meeting. We'll obviously have a lot of our district folks there. They will also be participating in various aspects of the virtual forum, and they're obviously for particular questions that need to be fielded by the district. We will also have in the virtuals, we'll do sort of virtual introductions, if you will, our superintendent, our board chair, President Beth Smith, and then we'll have a recorded message from Scott as well. And then we'll do those in person at the physical meeting, and hopefully be able to facilitate a lot more questions. Our office often does a lot of community engagement pieces, so we'll have the materials for folks who, whether they want to ask in person or whether they want a more private conversation, we can accommodate both types. We'll have translation and childcare on site, and we'll make sure that's included in, interpreter, not translation, but we will include that in the marketing so folks know what's available as they come. And basically that's about it, unless there's any questions for me.
This is Liz Flores. For the record, can you remind me the date?
Yes.
Oh, that would be important. Yes, Thursday, May 11th. That's a key piece, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for reminding me, because one other point of it, and a lot of you that have been involved in the commission in the past, we ask for moderators for those conversations. You kind of kick off the breakout room. We can help you with talking points or a script if you'd like, but really just kind of introducing the topic, introducing the speakers, and then helping to facilitate that question and conversation piece. So I will be sending individual emails to all of you. That way we avoid any OML considerations, and then I will just reply to me and let me know what your availability might be to help assist in moderating.
Liz Flores, for the record, would that also be the time to seek further information about if we've been assigned a topic?
Yes, so if you're, and forgive me if I don't recall your particular expertise.
Juvenile justice.
Okay, yes. So I will connect with you probably this week and talk to you about what that looks like. And also for those that are presenting, especially for the virtual, it might be easier to record some of those pieces. We talked about that option ahead of time. So we can provide that, or at the very least, make sure we have your PowerPoint or any materials to just ensure there won't be any technical glitches.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments?
This is Sarah Porter for the record. Is that all you need from us as a commission at this point then? Is you'll reach out to us to moderate or for people who are actually
Yes.
leading it? Okay, so we'll wait to hear from you for
Yes,
anything
and then
additional that you need.
Obviously, I'll share with the commission once we have our sort of marketing materials together. If you want to share those with any networks, that would be an ask too, or even if it's just that personal email invite to folks.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Megan.
Great, thank
That
you.
was perfect.
Awesome, thanks.
And I don't know that we need any other motions or anything on. No? Unless you wanted to add anything else? Okay. All right. With that, we will close this item and move on to item 2.04 for presentation and discussion of plan of elements to be included in the bipartisan Safe Communities Act district grant proposal. And this is going to be presented by Dr. Paula Marca, Chief Strategies Officer.
I thank you, and I guess you're all there, so you're seeing a document on screen, I think. Or for those who are online, are you seeing a document on screen? There we go. Um, So this is actually a kind of an exciting opportunity for us, and we wanted to present it to you. I think this is a discussion item. Everything that will be discussed today will not necessarily make it into these grant applications, but we are in the stages of developing those. So your input is super valuable, especially if you have questions or if you have additions that can be considered, or if there's something you just don't feel belongs. That's great to share that as well. Our discussion is primarily on what is labeled there BSCA, the Bipartisan Safe Communities Act. Um, but we're presenting a little bit of information on a grant we're receiving from Senator Cortez Masto, in part to show you how we are trying to use these funding sources in combination to attempt to build in some sustainability. Cortez Masto, that opportunity came to our attention last year. I'm going to guess it was in February or March. And we were basically approached by the senator's office and asked to submit a proposal that could include virtually anything around mental health. And so we did that, and we didn't really expect to get it. And lo and behold, they approved the funding. There will be some slight adjustments. That funding can likely include several different positions, and probably can't include one of the items that is described above. We learned that today. That's the Care Solace piece. But in brief, the Cortez Masto grant, which is non-competitive, we've already received it. It's just a matter of going through the bureaucracy, would result in several what we call mental health professional positions, 6 registered behavioral therapists, 3 school social workers. It would also include, or could include, a high school counseling coordinator and a substance use prevention counselor. It sort of in a separate arm of that grant, it would also include 5 what we call attendance officers. And I think actually it's 2 re-engagement. It's not specialist. I can't remember the other title, but it's administrative level re-engagement folks. The difference between those are attendance officers work with kids who are currently enrolled and who are not attending well. The re-engagement folks tend to work with kids after they've been withdrawn from school due to a lack of attendance. You also see in there 4 FRC positions. FRC stands for Family Resource Centers. And as you'll know just from past memory, we currently have several family resource centers. We have one at Desert Skies, one at O'Brien, one at Wooster, one at Sparks, and we added one this year at Hug High School. These positions would not necessarily expand the number of settings, but would offset some of the costs for positions at those current locations. So I say that because a lot of the Bipartisan Safe Communities Act builds on top of the Cortez Masto opportunity. You do see though, so let me say as well, Cortez Masto is only for next school year. So with Bipartisan Safe Communities Act in 23-24, we may include in that grant proposal this item you see called behavior training and programmatic support. targeted curricular support for behavioral and mental wellness. I can tell you the difference between those. The first one is really an extension of school psychology services. And actually, I just misspoke. It extends board certified behavior analyst support. These are people that are highly skilled in helping sort of diagnose behavioral problems students are exhibiting and building plans on how to address those. The targeted curricular support for behavioral and mental wellness, this is more materials that are targeted primarily for secondary schools. It's a lot of SEL materials. It's a lot of family engagement materials. It's effective uses of things such as in-school suspension, a whole bunch on substance abuse prevention and intervention. And it's really got just too many materials to talk about. But it might be a good opportunity for us. I think the cost is pretty expensive. It's approaches about $5,000 per school per year. Then we have an item called continuity of care training and the visitor management hardware upgrade. That request is being made by school police. The continuity of care training is really primarily, there's a description below that you can look at that in a moment. And then there's a couple of locations where we may seek funding to build a single point of entry at Sparks High School and secure perimeters at 2 high schools. Some of our high schools already have secure perimeters. But the 2 that have been targeted in this grant, I believe, are North Valleys and yeah, it's down there somewhere. We'll go down the description in a minute. So in 24-25, with bipartisan Safe Communities Act, as of now, we would continue everything that I've talked about, including all the positions included in Cortez Masto. We would also add to that suicide prevention and screening. That's an ongoing partnership we have with the Children's Cabinet. We use signs of suicide. The total cost for that, just for one grade level, for 1 year, is approximately $390,000. But we would be contributing about $250,000 of that. We also would like to add a position that's called a transition specialist. The Children's Cabinet received a grant this year, and in the following school year, they are going to provide a position to the district that essentially is a key person to assist as kids transition from detention centers into traditional school settings, or from our interim alternative education settings into traditional settings, or residential treatment centers into traditional settings. So hopefully this is good news for Liz Flores. This would expand our efforts with probation and parole. This person is really designed to actually go into the school with, I hate to say it, but with some level of authority to make sure that plans for supporting the success of students as they transition back are carried out to fidelity. We also might add into this the mental health care coordination services, or Care Solace. You do have a description of each of these pieces below. It's not super detailed, but it does provide a fair amount of detail. Sylvia, if you could scroll down to the bottom, that will identify the other high school that I forgot their name for a moment. It's under the secure perimeter section. North Valleys and Spanish Springs High School. So I'd be very interested in any comments you all may have. I am optimistic we will get a lot of what we're asking for, and I'm quite certain we won't get everything that we're asking for. And we may end up having to be strategic and pulling some things out so that the grant isn't watered down. So your comments would be welcome, and I can answer any questions or try to.
Zara Darby for the record. I had a question about the transition specialist. Is that including like homeless students and things? Because I've heard like a transition period within like statistics, especially during the superintendent squad planning team. So I was wondering if that was also included within that, or that was just from juvenile detention to normal school.
Thank you, Azara, for your question. It's a very good question. And it isn't, it would cover any students who are in foster care or who are classified as CIT, who transition from a residential center or an interim alternative education setting to one of our traditional schools. And unfortunately, they're disproportionately represented among those groups. So it would provide some support there.
Thank you.
Commissioner Vivey.
Yeah, Dr. Lamarca, could you clarify on the front page all the numbers? Is that the cost to the school district? Is it what we are asking, requesting in the grant for the amounts? Are those dollar amounts, and can you clarify what those mean?
Yes, thank you for the question. Those are amounts we're requesting from the granting agencies. So it is a large amount of money we are requesting, and it is based on our costs. So for example, the secure perimeter is roughly $500,000 per site, and we are going to request from what we call BISCA, Bipartisan Safe Community Acts, for that funding if we choose to include that.
Commissioner Flores.
Thank you, Liz Flores, for the record. Dr. Lamarca, is there a two-part question? Is there a deadline for expenditure, and whether or not there is, what would be the sustainability plan for these programs beyond the grant funding?
Thank you for the question. It's a really good question, and that's why we probably will need to trim back on a couple of things. So the Cortez Masto grant, as we currently understand it, is just for the following school year, but because it is a federal allocation, it may we may be able to expend it through September of 2024. But I'll have to seek clarification on that. The Bipartisan Safe Communities Act is for the next school year, or next 2 school years, so they overlap 1 year and then it extends 1 year. That again probably goes through September 30th of 2025. The sustainability plan is a really important question, and I appreciate your bringing it up. We are attempting as a school district, as a longer term plan, to have what we call a mental health professional at every high school building. A mental health professional is basically a licensed professional equivalent, if not a marriage and family therapist. We would also like to see a school social worker in every middle school, and or a combination of both of those at every secondary school. We have a couple of high schools that have very strong social workers, and they may choose to retain a social worker as opposed to a mental health professional. Our longer term plan is also to expand to the extent possible social workers down at the elementary school level. We do potentially have funding available to us to sustain the positions you see being requested in terms of social workers and mental health professionals. Some of you know that we have a Safe Schools professional source of funding through the state, and we have been converting that over time to pay for these higher level licensed individuals. The Registered behavioral therapists, this is an area that I'm very concerned about. But to Member Buchanan's comments earlier, this is a critical resource to support schools that are grappling with very difficult student behavior. And really, I think the reason why these positions are key is hopefully they can prevent and intervene early so that we won't see, the increases that we have seen in sort of these larger scale violent offenses. I don't currently have a funding source that would sustain those 6 positions after these first 2 years. However, I'm hopeful that the direction the state is moving with the legislation that was mentioned by Ms. Buchanan and our needs as a district would be more than enough to sustain those positions over time. A couple of the other positions I'm very worried about sustainability, the high school counselor position, and even the substance abuse position. I think prevention position. I do think that there's definitely a good argument for sustaining substance use prevention, but we don't have a current funding source for that right now. In terms of some of the software applications, we also do not have a general fund answer to that. However, I am very optimistic that this program is being selected carefully, and so it ought to be successful. And if it's successful, we should have a good argument to sustain it with general funding. And if it's not successful, then there would be a good argument to end that programming. So it's a very difficult question, Liz, as you know, when we're fighting, to get grant funding, and then we have the sustainability cliff. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Commissioner Gocochea,
Hey,
did you have a
Paul.
question?
Sorry, this is Scott.
Oh, go ahead.
For the
Go ahead,
record.
Scott. Sorry, I couldn't see you online. Go ahead.
No worries, sorry. Hey, we had discussed earlier, I think in the year, that there was going to be like a physical security review of maybe just the high schools or of the schools. And I was curious if that ever took place, and if so, were the results from that, looked at in terms of, what might be needed for this grant?
Thank you, Scott, for the question. I believe when Roy presented to the Safe and Healthy Schools Commission, and I think Jason may have joined him. I don't recall. They did share the basic process for doing some of the security audits in schools. I want to turn my camera off. I'm getting kind of glitchy here. They did talk about the process that emergency services uses to do those audits, and they continue. And I think there has been some increased attention to how to better secure our high schools. And I think that emergency services, they're not here unless Roy is in the audience there and wants to comment. That would be great.
He's here, Dr. Lamarca. He's walking up.
Okay, good. So let's let Roy answer this question.
I was trying to melt in the background. So Roy Anderson, Emergency Manager for the district. So yes, to answer the question, we have done quite a few. Michael Perry has done quite a few assessments at our schools based on that information that is obtained through the assessment. We make the recommendations through 2 facilities on what we're looking at, and some of the requests for this as far as like perimeter fencing are actually things that have come up from the previous assessments that were done by the School Safety Advocacy Council, actually probably 4 or 5 years ago. So we are in the process of getting those assessments in place and the items looked at for those.
Thanks, Roy.
That's great, Roy. Thank you for that update. Appreciate it.
Commissioner Gocochea.
Thank you. Dr. Lamarca, in the grant, when the grant opens for these next 2 years, will these positions also have will they be benefited positions, or they'll be straight grant positions, and then if they were able to be extended, then they would become school district positions?
Thank you, Jessica, for the question. These are all designed to be benefited positions from jump. So we want to embed these people and make them Washoe County School District employees.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Darby.
Sarah Darby for the record. I had another question, but it was circulating around the attendance officer. What's the extent of like the word officer within that? Like how strict are the rules within that? And would there be certain exceptions or like a plan of action for those students in transition?
Thank you again for the question. It's a really good question. Attendance officer kind of comes across as relatively harsh, but our attendance officers can, in fact, under certain circumstances, cite students for failure to attend. It's required to attend. I think from 7 to 17. Liz can correct me if I'm wrong on that. Basically, though, our attendance officers are carefully trained to be super supportive of students. They primarily are individuals that engage with families. They'll go to homes, they'll knock on doors, they'll talk to students, they'll talk to families about what barriers are being faced and preventing kids from going to school. They'll go out of their way to provide rides and to help perhaps provide referrals to family resource centers or to other services that families may need. We typically find with attendance problems that this is not kids that are just not wanting to attend. There are usually deeper issues going on. And so we see attendance as a signal and we treat it that way. And so our attendance officers are absolutely critical. Now, once attendance gets to a point where it's really bad and we know that gaps in learning are occurring, we do hold what we call attendance hearings, where we bring in families and the student. We sit in partnership with Juvenile Services as well as Human Services Agency, and often, to your second part of your question, this can involve students who are supported through foster care or they're living in transition. At that stage, more formal support plans are built to aid a student in attending, but oftentimes there is a contingency there that if attendance doesn't improve significantly, the student could face citation. So that's kind of what I could tell you. Our office or our department that oversees all the work around attendance is our intervention department. You all have heard from Rochelle Murillo previously. She's the director of that office. Her department also does all the management of the support for children in transition and foster care. So those students are supported as very best we can, as are all of our kids. But it is always close to mind when we're working with kids that we know are struggling for issues that are really not at all their responsibility.
Thank you.
I had a question. Dr. Lamarck, I had a question about the behavior training. I know that it looks like, as I read it, it looks like it's geared towards focusing on special education teachers and paras, but I'm wondering if maybe this, if it is, it could be extended or possibly provide training to a district person, that we could extend this to all mainstream teachers and administrators?
Thank you again for that question. It's a really good question. We see this as a real opportunity for us. I think you're right that, okay, so this is the item I was telling, is essentially an extension of our board certified behavior analytics support. BCBAs are highly skilled individuals that support in what we call functional behavioral analysis. They essentially identify why a student behaves the way they behave, and then they help develop plans to sort of replace that negative behavior with behaviors that are much more appropriate and conducive to student learning. So what ends up happening in a district as large as ours is these resources do ultimately end up going almost exclusively towards special education. We would like to have, we have 5 what we call BCBAs right now. We could have 5 more, no problem. And if we did, we would better be able to support our general education students and hopefully prevent them from ever getting into special education. We do see the registered behavioral therapists who would report to BCBAs being able to fill some of that void. To your point about training, yes, the group that we have already worked with a bit who would probably go for this grant opportunity, if we get it and then we can fund it out, they are a Truckee-based program. They provide a lot of training to sites that are dealing with specific students, but they also provide whole staff training around kind of like Behavior 101, and they would essentially be an extension of our multi-tiered systems of support department so that we have cross-training, and yes, we could extend that out to additional buildings.
Sorry, I know that the superintendent did mention, it was about a month ago, I think, specific training for teachers in dealing with students who potentially could be violent. Does this roll into it? Does it overlap?
It does roll into it. Again, thank you for the question. So on March 13th, we had a group, they're called Behavior Advantage. I just sort of alluded to them. We don't have a contract with them, and it's not a guarantee that they would be our contractor. But we did sign a very small contract, and they provided support to all of our it was available and strongly encouraged for all of our high schools, elementary schools, and middle schools for all staff. And again, it was sort of the Behavior 101 training. That was one piece of what Dr. Enfield essentially promised on February 2nd. At her State of the Education, and then also what she sent out to all staff. I do think it will be, you will see, and we will bring this to you at a later point in the coming year and in the summer, that will be wrapped into more integrated training that provides a focus around trauma-informed practice, de-escalation techniques, a variety. Actually, chronic absenteeism will be rolled into that because there's so much relationship there with trauma. We often see that, behavior and attendance are both sort of symptoms of deeper problems. One is expressive, one is sort of internalization. So it all kind of comes together. So yes, that was one part of what we hope to see as much more training for teachers and school staff around these areas.
Thank you, Dr. LaMarca. Oh, and Commissioner Porter.
Commissioner Porter, for the record, I just have a couple clarifying questions on timing and kind of how this breaks out. If I could, for the Cortez Masto, which is personnel primarily, that is secured and going to roll out in the 2023-24 school year, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
The only caveat there is, and notoriously with federal government and state government, their timelines are different than our timelines. So, if they provide us the funding in time, we will start on day one. If they don't, then what we will hope for is that they will extend the contract period so that we'll have the resource for a longer period of time.
Okay, great. And the BSCA, all of these kind of line items that you've mentioned, when is this grant, couple questions. When is the grant due? So you have to submit it. And I know you said you're making a lot of asks and kind of going for it. Is there any opportunity to prioritize, or is that something that you guys have thought about in terms of if you get everything great, but if not, is there a sense of priority that would be in line with some of these hires that we've had to make so we can kind of have some synergy there with the funding that's already been secured?
Thank you. Really good questions. There has been some prioritization work done. Our director of grants, Lauren Olin, she's working with us very closely. And when I say us, it's not just our office, it's also Adam Searcy in operations and Jason Trevino with school police. Roy is there, for example. Lauren is sort of the conduit to the granting agencies, so she is seeking information. For example, with the positions, will we be given the opportunity to cut positions based on our priorities, or are they going to say yes, no to each and every position? If it's the latter, then we're going to need to be a little bit more strategic because we don't think they're going to provide 28 positions. It's difficult, but our grants department has been highly successful in getting grant funding. So I am confident we'll have a strong proposal. And again, it's not going to include everything you see on that sheet, but I do think it's going to include the vast majority of it. At this stage, Ms. Porter, what I would suggest is what I see as most vulnerable in terms of positions are the high school counseling coordinator. And I say that partly because Bipartisan Safe Communities Act is extremely focused on mental health and crisis prevention. And that position that I just mentioned is more of a coordinator position. So I see that one as being somewhat risky. I see the Family Resource Center positions being risky, even though we all know that there is a strong nexus to family systems when we're talking about the stress our students are experiencing. So that's pretty much all I can share, I think, at this point. Let me say that if any of you have ideas and you want to say X is most important, that is fine. I can't promise you that X will be most important, but that's part of the feedback we are interested in hearing.
Any other comments from the commission? Any other questions?
This is Lorraine Benuto for the record. I just wanted to say that I'm super excited about the grant, Dr. Lamarca, that you're working on. I would, hedge to say that something that is really important is working with the students that we were referencing earlier that are having outbursts in the classroom and perhaps acting out against teachers. I know, certainly we want to protect teachers, but typically those students are engaging in those types of behaviors because there's something very serious underlying going on. And I would see them as needing to be at the forefront of receiving services.
Yes, I thank you, Lorraine. Dr. Benuto, absolutely, you're right. I think every time we get into these discussions around student behavior, the focus is always around this very extreme behavior, and unfortunately, often what we see is a lack of systems really at that tier 1, tier 2 layer that would prevent not all, but some of these problems. Ms. Buchanan mentioned earlier some of the data we presented on on March 14th, and we have seen in this school year compared to 2018-19, so the last school year prior to COVID, but the same time frame, first 110 days of school, we've seen a 15% reduction in the total number of major behavioral events, and we're talking, tens of thousands of events. But at the same time, we've seen an 8% increase in very violent events. So these are your batteries and your extreme bullying situations, and so that's troubling. And we need to do more to intervene with these students earlier on to help them get back on track.
Thank you for that, Dr. LaMarca. That's an excellent point. And thank you, Dr. Minuto. That's a hopeful place to, I think, close out this discussion if there's nothing else to speak on this. With that, we will move to item 3.01, which is public comment. Sylvia?
We did receive public comment via email from Brian Ebris, Casey DePuy, and Michelle Hull, and we do have public comment here with us today as well, Mrs. Laura Hish.
Welcome. Hi.
Dear members of our school board, my name is Laura Hish. I'm a new parent to the school district, having just recently moved here this past summer. I was already planning this meeting today to discuss school security and safety after last week's school shooting in Nashville. I definitely didn't expect to start my day with a shooting threat at my son's high school. I have had the opportunity to have children in 2 local schools and have seen how amazing the security is at some of the new schools. My daughter attends Nick Poulikitis Elementary, and it has been so nice to see how much thought, effort, and resources has been devoted to make this school as safe as possible. The entire school is surrounded by locked fencing, and from my understanding, the perimeter is all bulletproof glass. There is one point of entry and exit, and doors can be unlocked only by office staff once you have pressed a doorbell and have been witnessed on camera. Once inside, you are greeted by more bulletproof glass and must state your reason for visiting, and if you need to actually go into the school, you must have your ID scanned, must receive a visitor pass, and have to have a second set of doors unlocked by office staff. Every classroom is usually locked as well. Generally, you never make it past the lobby as they will bring your child to you. This experience has been a stark contrast to our experience at DeMonte Ranch High School, where our son attends. There are dozens of doors surrounding the school that are unlocked in the mornings and that only become locked on the outside once school has started. Once school has started, the main entrance is the only entry and exit point, but is fully unlocked. The entire campus is open, and there is no bulletproof glass that I am aware of. Once inside, you have to walk to the middle of the building to find the office, which has wide open doors and no security for the staff. Every classroom remains unlocked as well. Realistically, a threat could enter the school undetected and go around to any classroom and cause major harm without any staff being aware of a threat. We are grateful to know that this morning's threat against DeMonte Ranch High School was just a threat and that no actual shooter was on campus and that no one was hurt. But as a parent of a student at the school, let me tell you the fear was real. Not knowing if your child is safe, endangered, injured, or had just been murdered is indescribable. No parent should have to feel that. Students and staff members also shouldn't have to fear for their safety. I have heard reports of teachers standing by their locked doors with bats, students and teachers pushing furniture up against the doors, and students hiding in closets. Picking up our son this morning, you could see the fear and real terror these staff members just lived through. We as a community and you as our school board have no control over crazy criminals who wish to harm others. But the responsibility we do all bear is to make sure that every single one of our schools is as safe and secure as can be. We need to dedicate time, energy, and the resources necessary to retrofit these older schools to be just as safe as the newer schools. I don't have a lot of experience with school system, but I would be personally happy to raise my taxes in order to make this possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hesh. Is there other public comment?
No other public comment.
Okay. With that, we move to item 3.02, which is the announcement of our next meeting, May 1st, 2023. I hope to see you all there because it's right before our forum, so we can iron out any last-minute details. And with that, we'll adjourn this meeting at 3:16. Thank you all for coming.